Today, we discuss all things 109 in your Dynasty Superflex drafts. We discuss trades in real leagues, trade theory we are considering, as well as what players we are considering taking here and who we have as our consensus for the podcast. Stick around for all that and more. And welcome into the Dino Construction Podcast. Justin with David and JP, continuing our rookie draft series. Excited to bring you episode 109. 3 more to come, 8 already out there. Hit that like, that subscribe button. Easiest way to help out the channel. Thank you all so much. That being said, let's hop right into who we have drafted so far, David.
Yeah, surprise. We took Ashton Jeanty at 101. I know. Shocker. Next three guys we kind of have in a tier. We sorted them for this draft, though. Ted McMillan, 102, Cam Ward, 103, Omarion Hampton, 104. And we kind of start this huge tier that we're in the middle of right now. We took Travion Henderson at the top at 105, Tyler Warren, 106, Emeka Egbuka, 107, and our last pick was quarterback Shador Sanders at 108.
Definitely a lot of talent off the board so far. JP, can you tell us about the talent that still is on the board and in consideration here?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got running backs and wide receivers. We also have one tight end still, Colston Loveland. But the running backs we've got is Caleb Johnson, Quinshon Judkins still on the board. At wide receiver, it's still pretty interesting. We got Travis Hunter. Who knows what he's going to do? We got Luther Bird in Missouri and Texas receiver Matthew Golden. Kind of the same consideration of players as it's been for the last few picks.
Yeah, still a lot of talent on the board. Now let's go ahead and let's start looking at some trades in real leagues because although we love all these players here, we're always looking to explore everything we can do with our pick before we are on the clock. So, gonna throw to David first. I know this is right in the range you said you're considering for this player a few months ago when we did our RB tiers. The 109 or Chase Brown at this point.
If you ask me this question after the draft, and I know Chase Brown survived it, I can see taking him. But I think the chances that they add someone to at least complement him and take away a little bit of his upside pretty high. And I still think at the 109, you're looking at a pretty good player. I still think it's going to be in that tier with the 105. We've talked about the last few episodes of a probable split of this massive tier at some point. It's definitely risky, but I still think we're in that middle tier here with 105, going on up, not the other way around. So I'm going to stick with the pick. Now, like I said, if you ask me after the NFL draft, that might change, but I'm going to stick with the flexibility and the less risky piece with the 109.
JP, same pick. Surprisingly, we're still talking about the pick the video is named after. The 109 or Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I said in the last episode that I would take the 108 over Josh Jacobs. This is making me more open to it. Yeah, I think I'm still gonna stick with the 109. I think it is close. I think if I wouldn't fault you if you sent the 109 for Josh Jacobs, but I'm gonna lean this side of the 109 today.
Yeah, I'd have to be stacked at every other position and just a RB away from competing with no concerns about getting older with this to make this trade. I'd consider it on some specific rosters, but in a vacuum, you're right, JP. Next trade here for you, David. A little bit of a drop down. Is this still in the same tier? Is this viable? Start 10, 109, or the 202 and a 26 second.
I'm going to stay at the 109 here. I think there's a world where this might work out for the package side, but there's just too much risk for me. Right now, I go to the 203 with players that I like, but that's going to change probably after the NFL draft. And you're losing almost all flexibility about who you could have at the 202. So 26 seconds is just not enough for me to give away that flexibility and take on that much risk.
let me ask you a question here. If that 26 second is the team that just earned the 202, does that make you consider it more, David, versus a random 26 second? Although it's still random.
Are we assuming that he's going to earn the 202 again? Because I've had plenty of 202s that I've earned for teams that I'm quickly turning around, you know?
Let's assume that you think it could still miss the playoffs.
I still think I'm going to hold, but I'm going to think a little bit harder. And maybe if I'm not ready to compete and I'm still looking to gain assets, or if I like took over an orphan and it's really short on assets, this is something that I need to split, then yeah, I think we could talk about that. But I still think you could get more for the 109 to move back that far. You should be able to get more, in my opinion.
And JP, one right here. Put a lot of stuff together. Start 11, 109, Theo Johnson, Isaac Guerrero, or Dak Prescott.
Yeah, Theo Johnson doesn't do anything. Grindo's kind of interesting, but yeah, we're looking pretty close to the 109 or Dak Prescott. Man, I do think it is a question, but I'm going to stick with Dak Prescott for now. I mean, we've seen that he can be a quarterback one. He's getting older, but he's not. It's not like he's Matthew Stafford old, where he's only got a year or two left. So I'm gonna stick with Dak Prescott for now because I mean, hit rate for 109 is starting to get a little shaky here, and Dak Prescott, I know he's good and can put up QB1 numbers.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting point now that we're transitioning away from our real trades in our real leagues. Thank you, dynasty-daddy.com, for helping us pull those trades. If I didn't say thank you at the beginning, I know I have in every other episode, but you know, what can you do? Sometimes you forget until after you talk about it. So sometimes we, you know, want to go to quarterback. It's even interesting on our theoretical draft board here. We just saw Shador Sanders go off the board. He may be here at the 109 in your league. He may not. But I mean, in a vacuum, we prefer Dak Prescott to Shador Sanders. Tell me if either of you disagree with that competing team, especially. So, what are some things we're looking, David, to potentially do at QB then, given we're not so sure about Sanders if we want to get a competing QB?
I mean, I'll be honest, if you're sitting here and Sanders is on the board, you got to feel a lot more comfortable from your negotiation stance, at least, because worst case, you could take Sanders. If you're in this situation, though, with the boards as it has gone and you don't have that option, you might have to get a little more desperate. I mean, I think Dak's a good spot to start, especially if you are competing. I really like him. I think he's got a couple more good years ahead of him, still, even at almost 32 years old. I think you're getting a nice discount on him. You're probably going to have to add, but like guys in the Baker, Michael Penix down to Jared Goff. I don't know if I feel comfortable enough in Bryce Young to spend this pick on him, but if you do, I guess that would be about the value. I think we could go down to even Tua if you're willing to take on some risk. So that's where I would start. If you have to add a little bit, if you can add a little bit, get up to like Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray, something like that. That'd be great. That's probably going to take like a real asset. You're probably not just going to throw in like a late second or a future second or something. So yeah, I think Dak would be my main target though. I think that first trade we looked at was great, 109 and some random junk to get him. Let's do that all day.
I would throw on so many pennies to the 109 to get Dak Prescott. All of the pennies. Rasheen Ali, you can take my anything that's garbage like a Theo Johnson or Grendo. They're good players to roster, but they're also great players to liquidate. Love to see it. JP. Now say we don't need quarterback. Say we're looking at wide receiver direction here. And let's say that you're looking for something a little more certain on your roster than you feel about the rookies on the board here. What are some directions you might be looking to go here?
Yeah, I mean, Luther Burden might still be on the board here, Matthew Golden as well, but I definitely understand if you don't feel that confident in these prospects. You know, they're not sure things to hit, and year one production might be a little bit low. So obviously, if you're competing, I probably would look to move this pick for some of these wide receivers. Like, you're not going to be able to get like a Rashi Rice, Roma Dunze, maybe not even a Devontae Smith, but I think guys that you're looking at is guys like DJ Moore. I think that he's a good target. He's top 20 ranked in redraft right now. An underdog. He's a top 20 receiver being drafted. And he just turned 28, so he's getting up there in age a little bit. But I think we've seen that he can be a really good receiver. Zay Flowers is somebody that you can consider as well. He's much younger than DJ Moore, about 3.5 years younger. I guess it's not as drastic as I thought, but still, Zay Flowers has shown that he could have a lot of boom weeks. He's a little bit more inconsistent. I personally really like Chris Olave still. I know there's risk with his injuries, but I think he's a great player. But I think some other options you could look at is getting guys that are a bit older, where you get maybe you trade the 109, you get one of these receivers plus a second or something, maybe a third. And I'd be looking at Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, one of these Buccaneers. We've seen both of these guys be very productive. I think you could probably get a little bit of a kickback if you're throwing the 109 out there. And I think Terry McLaurin, I would love to get him as well. He's going to be turning 30 soon. But man, with Jaden Daniels, he showed that he can be a wide receiver one. I still think he can do that for a couple more years. So I would love to look at one of those wide receivers for production.
Are you willing to pay this 109 for Terry, or are you needing something back? And how substantial of a something back? Because I'd struggle to pull that trigger myself.
Yeah, yeah, I would. For those three older guys specifically, I would need to get a little bit more back. A second, I would definitely do it. A third makes me think about it a little bit. I personally really like Chris Godwin, and I think Terry McLaurin. They're not as old as Mike Evans. They're a couple years younger, so I think for them, I might consider a third if I really feel like I need that wide receiver production. But for Mike Evans, I would need a second back for sure.
2-3 swap. Would you do that if you were trading the 109 and a third for McLaurin or Godwin in a second? If they're future picks?
I think so. I mean, they just both showed. I mean, Chris Godwin, he was top three wide receiver before his injury, points per game. That's really good, and he's going to be in the same role, I believe. And Terry McLaurin, I don't think Debo Samuel's doing much to change his role.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable analysis there. And the last kind of strategy question I want to discuss here is this the point that we are looking to ship this forward for a random future first? We talked about it last episode in the 108 video, and we were like, it's close. It's close, but we're not quite there. At the 109, is this the point we're willing to do that? I'm going to go JP first, then David.
I'm just going to go and put a caveat out there. If I'm rebuilding, yeah, I'll do it. If I'm contending, I think I might hold on to the 109, but it's close. I think it's right. I just got to have that caveat because it's that close at the 109.
Yeah, I might take a little peek at the team. I might take a little peek at the team offering that first. If they're like a super team, I'll go ahead and hold the 109. But otherwise, even if I think they're, potential playoff team, I think this is about the time where you should do that process wise. Like if you've got your eyes on someone and you got rookie fever, I don't blame you for holding it. But I think even if you are competing, having the flexibility of a first to plug a hole throughout the season is really helpful. So I think it makes sense here. I'm still a little on the fence though because I do like the board still. So I don't blame anyone for holding, but process I think is now we got to roll it back. I think.
Kind of talking about what you just said there. You really like the board. I still really like the board too. It's before the NFL draft. How confident are you that we are still going to really like the board here post NFL draft?
If you ask me that about the 108, I'd still feel pretty confident. The 109 is where I'm not nearly as confident because landing spots, especially for the wide receivers and running backs, I think could be very volatile.
But certainly all these guys, because we have 6 guys we just talked about at the end of the episode, they're not going to all get a bad landing spot, right? I think 2, 3, 4, even potentially them could, right?
Yeah, and like I mentioned, like Caleb Johnson, Matthew Golden, it's harder for me to put them right here just based on my outlook on them. But no, it's still a good point.
Then why aren't you trading me Caleb Johnson in retirement home? Sorry. Anyways, let's have David answer that other question about how confident are you in this pick post draft? We'll talk about trades later, JP. We'll talk about trades later.
um. Well, I'll let you know how confident I am in it post draft after the draft. No, it's in that muddy area where I still think we're probably, like I said earlier in the show, I still think we're in the tier of the 105 if I had to guess, but it's going to break up somewhere around here. So I don't know. Each pick you move back, there's a little more risk. Each 110, I'll definitely roll over. 109 is kind of that tipping point for me. I think 108 I was still keeping the pick. So I don't know. I feel pretty good that it's going to be in this tier, but it's definitely more risky than the last pick. So
Yeah, I think we talked about earlier. It's actually it's a lower pick, so that checks out. The math.
I know. Just such great advice. I'm glad I could help you guys out with that.
I don't know what we would do without you, David. All right, so let's say we can't make any trades here and we have to stick and pick. Who are the guys we are considering here? Let's make our actual cases for we talked about six. Who, when we're really on the clock, are we actively making our choice between, David? Start us off.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and make my case for Luther Burden. JP made a pretty good case for him in the last episode. He's an early declare. He's been successful in the SEC. His sophomore season was excellent. His last season, not as good. But he did have a similar dominator rating between the 2 years. The Missouri offense as a whole took a step back. That's not absolving him of guilt. He definitely should have played better, and I think he'd be the first to tell you that. But he's just excellent with the ball in his hands. Crazy missed tackle force per attempt rates. I know a lot of people are trying to peg him in as a gadget only kind of guy, but he's more than that. He's a solid route runner. He's not great. He definitely needs to improve on that if he wants to become an elite wide receiver, if he ever wants to be the alpha on his team. But I do think that upside exists. I think there's a realistic chance that he has the highest ceiling of anyone, except maybe Travis Hunter. But there's just a little too much risk for me right now to make a case for Hunter over Burden. So, yeah, the last thing I'm going to say about him, and this might not be good for people. It's not a good process. I'll tell you that actually straight up. I got take luck on this guy. I really like him. I've liked him throughout his whole career. He's really fun to watch. I just think he's really good at football. And I'm willing to overlook a couple little things about his profile that we don't like. And I admit that there's risk. And like I said, that's not great process. But I think it's fun to have some my guys. I think it's good to have some player takes and let that drive a little bit of your process. And yeah, I've felt pretty good about certain receivers in the past that have hit, and I'm far from perfect. But every now and then I get a feeling about a receiver like this, and I have that feeling about Burton. I just think he's going to be a really good pro.
And for me, the guy I'm going to make the case for, Quinshawn Judkins, running back out of the Ohio State University. So he broke out as a true freshman in the SEC, had 2 good years there, and just had a solid year winning a national championship for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Did well as well on a per touch basis, 5.5 yards per attempt. 161 receiving yards this year on 22 receptions, 59 receptions for 442 yards on the career, 1.13 yards per route run this year. Enough to tell you he can catch screens and dump off passes and stuff. Probably not running wheel and go routes out of the backfield like his counterpart that's also been talked about in our draft series, but I think he can do enough as a running back out of the backfield. I think he can do a lot as a running back, running enough receiving. And between his breakout age, the size speed 9.9 RAS score, 4.4840 at his size, I'm really excited about this guy and what he can do at the NFL level. I think a comp I heard that I really liked for him was just Najee Harris with juice that stuck to me. And if you give me a Najee Harris that's actually just a little bit faster, but can play 17 games every season and actually break through the hole, I'm pretty excited about that possibility of what this guy can do as a bell cow potentially. I think he's one of the potential bell cows we have in this draft. I think there's 4 of them up top here, honestly, and I'm very excited about his combination of age, size, speed, and breakout age.
You guys made good cases for 2 early declare SEC prospects, but I'm just gonna say that you guys are wrong and that there's somebody else that should be the pick here, and that is the big risk in the draft, and that's Travis Hunter out of Colorado. I mean, this guy has been gaining some more steam as a guy who might be playing wide receiver. I mean, Daniel Jeremiah, he completely flipped and said, I think this guy's going to play wide receiver. Since then, we've got also a wide receiver prospect on reception perception for Travis Hunter. And my God, he's got the full green route tree, which is very rare. He's got a 97th percentile zone success rate and also 97th against press. And this guy doesn't even take full time on the offensive meetings, which I actually heard that he spent more time with the defense than he did on the offense. So this guy is he's part time in the offensive meetings. He's not dedicating all his time and his craft to that, and he's that good of a route runner. And we know that he is a freaky special athlete as well. He's really long as well, and I hear that people say he's got the best ball skills in this class, and I think that's very valid. If you see him not only picking quarterbacks off, but also going up and winning contested catches, I mean, it's just the pudding's in the proof here. Also, when you look at the data that reception perception has on that as well, he had the second best. He was only behind Luther Burden, but Luther Burden had much smaller sample size on the contested catch rate, but it's over 80%. He's also a really great yak guy as well. He makes the first guy miss very frequently, and I don't know, he might be in the consideration with Ashton Genty if he does play full time wide receiver as the 101. Because I mean, Cleveland Browns, Andrew Berry, GM, he said I see him as a full time wide receiver. I think with the Patriots, he'd be a full time wide receiver, and the Giants, I think it's a little shakier, but I still think that a team in high leverage situations, when they see how good this guy is in practice, they're just gonna have a hard time keeping him off the field. So I think at this point in the draft of the 109, I think the risk is well worth it. I might even take him at 106, 107 personally, but I also understand that if you swing and miss, that it can be pretty detrimental to your team. But I just think he's by far the best player on the board, and it's not even a question.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I do. Travis Hunter is an excellent prospect. If we knew he was going to play wide receiver, like you said, he might even be in the discussion for 101. I guess the point I'm going to make at this point is even overlooking the chance that you could strike out completely and he could be a full time defender who just gets in some offensive packages, even if it's going to be closer to a even split. If we assume 100% of wide receiver Travis Hunter is an 18 points per game guy, if you say it's going to be 90% a wide receiver, that takes him to 16.2, 80% is 14.4. And I mean, that's assuming the same value for every single snap, which isn't true. Obviously, they're probably going to use him in some higher leverage situations. So let's say, 16 and a half and 15. You assume he's going to be somewhere in the 80 to 90% range. You're taking a decent hit there. That's going from potentially elite player to still above average, but like no longer difference making. So I don't know. I'm a little scared to pull the trigger, but I do want some exposure to Hunter, and I understand taking him here. I understand taking him earlier too. I absolutely do. That's just a little difference in my process. I'm a little worried that he's not going to be a full time wide receiver.
Yeah, I think Hunter is a great pick here. I think I'm reconsidering my process a little bit for how I'm evaluating the tiers even at the beginning of this video. And our consensus tier is 102 to 104 is a tier, but I could see Hunter breaking into that tier very easily. So I am starting to poke and prod at 105s in some leagues right now, touching base with managers in leagues where I could use that pick, looking at moving up into that potential tier. There's potential loss because I'm paying up to move up, and I might end up paying up to move to the top of a tier. Something we always say we never want to do. Could end up doing it, but it's a risk I think I'm willing to take because I think that we talked about how the 102 to 104 is a substantial difference from the rest of this tier. And if Hunter rises up to the 105 in that tier, I think it could be worth paying a easily I would pay a second to move up to the 105 from the 108.9 at this point. If it's a later second, a 26 second that I don't project to be the 201, I think I'm pretty willing to take that risk unless I'm incredibly asset poor, basically.
I think the point that you made, David, about how he might not be that 18 points per game, how he might just be great, not elite, that's definitely on the table. But I mean, the players that we were just talking about at 109 is a guy like Zay Flowers, who that's what he is. I mean, he might be really good to great, but not ever going to be elite.
There's definitely risk with everyone here. There's not many guys that could be 18-point per game players left. Maybe just this one. I definitely accept that. I just really like Burden. I think if it weren't for the fact that I've got a prospect crush on Luther Burden, I'd probably make a case for Hunter here, but I do think Burden has similar upside, and I know he's going to play receiver, so I still have him above Hunter. But I get it. I rethink it every day, and by the time we record again, I might feel differently. But I guess the question then becomes, Justin, do we let JP hijack this draft? Do we just go with Hunter here?
Hell yeah. Yeah, we're gonna go Travis Hunter here. I think again, we've talked about we can take him earlier even than this, but given the risk, I think this is a fair point for him to settle in right now. So let us know what you think about all that in the comments below. If we're taking him too late, too early, or just right. And thank you for joining us for another episode of the Dino Construction Podcast. We hope you found this as helpful for you as it was for us. Please remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen and view. And from all of us here at the Dino Construction Podcast, until next time.